Happy Collaboration Friday, everybody. We are back as a group. I figured we'd do this, get everybody on in one day. Let's not overkill it. It's Friday, which means we play in 2 days. It's been a nice little respite for 49er fans who have been totally stressed out by the first half of the season, like myself. And it gave me just enough time to get ready to be stressed out for the second half of the season. But my whole goal here is to have everybody that's on this panel convince me to be positive. So that's the theme of the podcast or the stream tonight. But how's everybody doing?
We're doing good. You just gave us a tough test. I don't know if I can handle that one.
Yeah. We might need 2 more people. I don't know if 3 is going to do it.
Well, Raj was supposed to be in here, and he's the eternal optimist. So,
I'm a positive guy, so I might help, but I don't know.
Yeah, you are. Sometimes I'm a bad influence on you, and I can get you to go pretty negative. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. The best news coming out of the bye week, because there's some bad news too that we're going to talk about regarding a player and him not being here, and I don't blame him one bit, but is the return of Christian McCaffrey, CMC, after a long wait. The first half of the season with his Achilles tendonitis. He is back this Sunday in Tampa for 4 p.m. Eastern, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. I'm not sure time for the start, but it's I can't wait. I just want to get everybody's overall kind of energy coming off of the bye week now that we know they have Christian McCaffrey back in the building. I'll start with Bashar.
Oh, you started with me. Okay, great. It's good to take a step back from football. I'm always resetting my camera, guys, because it gets really jittery for whenever I stream with Aaron for whatever weird reason. But other than that, it's always good to take a step back from football and clear your mind and get back to other things in life that you may have been too busy with, so to speak. So it's good. It's fine to have that escape for a minute and then refresh and then get back into football mode. This might be on Sunday. I'm actually planning on meeting up with an old high school friend who I haven't seen in years to watch this game in the morning. So I didn't set in stone where to watch it, but in general, I'm excited for this upcoming game just for the fact that we took a bit of a break. CMC's back in the mix. I don't know if we're going to see Jawan Jennings. I'd love to see him back. Some other guys may be back. So having CMC should be a whole lot to be excited about, and I'm ready for this. Yeah.
Al?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for no other reason than I had the first pick in my fantasy draft, and I'm 3-6, and I could definitely use some help from McCaffrey. Granted, I won that league last year, and that this is God's way of evening out the universe. But listen, hopefully, I listened before the show. He had like a 4-minute interview. Just fielded a couple questions. He started with someone asked him like, "What exactly was the procedure you had done?" He's like, "I'm going to keep that private." As long as Shanahan eases him back in, this should not be a game where he gets 20 or 25 touches. I think we probably could all agree on that. If he rolls in as the third down back, if Mason's shoulder is good enough and Guarendo's I'm sure he's feeling good, that they handle the first and second down running duties, and McCaffrey is the equalizer for second and long, third and long, red zone, I'd be fine with that. He doesn't need to come out of the gates and have, 50 yards, receiving and 70 yards rushing. I just get through the game healthy, make a difference on third down, help out in the red zone. And this is a game where, let's be honest, they could beat Tampa without him, but you can't keep them in bubble wrap forever. So this is, I think, a nice defense, right? A bad defense for him to go up against. So just get out of it healthy.
James?
Yeah, it's nice to have a week off and relax, not worry about your team. Because we've had so many ups and downs this season. It's the fact that we're getting McCaffrey back is great. I'm going to that game December 1st against Buffalo, and I can't wait to see that guy. I've always wanted to see him. He's just a beast. So, yeah, I agree. I think he's going to have kind of a subpar game because, it's his first game back. But I'm excited for Guarendo because I think Guarendo's going to get a larger role if Mason is hurt, which I feel like it's a lingering injury. Usually when it's a shoulder, you don't want to put a running back right away, back in right away if he's got a shoulder injury because that's a big part of the carrying for a running back. So hopefully we get Juwan back. Him and Pearsall and Debo. That 3 tandem sounds pretty good. And then, don't forget about Kittle. Kittle can turn it on at any moment. The thing about Tampa Bay, though, that I'm very surprised about was how well they played against Kansas City. They actually did better than us against Kansas City. They almost beat Kansas City, which is probably one of the worst in the NFL. But Baker Mayfield, I'm not really worried about him because Nick Bosa hates him with a passion, and I think Nick Bosa is just going to eat him alive. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Did you guys see how they questioned Nick Bosa in the locker room about Baker Mayfield, and he was totally downplayed it like it was nothing. There, but we all know he probably hates him. And really quick, I wanted to add this to the Knicks. I hope let's cross our fingers on this because Rob D put up a great comment. He said something about a 3-head monster for the Niners. It seems like Kyle finally has some running backs other than CMC that he may have some confidence in. We all know that every 49er fan and their mom thought Mason should have gotten way more carries as a 49er prior to this season. But yeah, he never did. But maybe he finally, it seems like Kyle finally has a trust in him, and he was forced to use him. Yeah, and Bobby Turner actually likes him now, and now we got him Garendo in the mix, who I was really hyped up about because he's just a height, weight, speed type of guy, and he's looking like he's learned. Like they said, he was really stiff and he didn't have running back instincts. Whatever Bobby Turner's teaching him, he's picking up, man. So I'm excited to see all these running backs in the mix, and it's fine. Again, we don't like Al said, we don't have to go out of our way to use CMC this time around.
All that sounds good, but Kyle is Kyle. Kyle is Kyle. And that's the one thing about this that scares me is he is the type of coach that if something works, he beats it into the ground. And that's my biggest fear. Strategy wise, going in and only giving him 10 to 15 carries is probably the best bet. Bringing him in and having him have 20 to 25 carries, I think would be a huge mistake, especially now that we know that we have this great depth behind him. If Mason is available, it's weird. And sometimes in these seasons where it's a down year or it's a season that's kind of like hot and cold and you win one, you lose one, and guys are injured, it's kind of a plus in a way because you're getting to see some players that if we were having a really healthy season and we were doing really well, you probably never got a chance to know about them. So say somebody goes down in the future, you don't know if they're any good. The Niners, in a way, and I know this is kind of me speaking into the future, whatever happens after this year, the Niners have some questions because of injuries that have happened this year that they have a lot of answers to now, which is awesome. Parasol being one of them, the 2 running backs, of course. I wish Cowen would get a little bit of love, but maybe there's reasons behind that. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that things have worked out the way they have this year. I'm just trying to, if anybody needs to be protected, it's CMC and it's from Kyle. So I actually have a clip I want to play real quick, if you guys don't mind. It's just him being asked about everything, Christian McCaffrey about coming back, and it's about a minute or so. So I'll play that for you guys.
Well, how are you feeling?
We're good.
Can you kind of take us through the Germany trip? Was it Dr. Veeling that you met with there?
I keep all that stuff private, when you're on IR and you're hurt, you'll do anything to come back, so I'm feeling good now. That's all that matters.
They said that rest was the most important component to it. Would you agree with that, or would you say that the
wish
things
it was
that you
that
did?
easy? Yeah, I wish it was that easy. It's a combination of a lot of things that go into it. Our staff did an amazing job. Look, the last 8 weeks were extremely unfortunate for me. It's very tough being injured. It's tough physically, mentally, emotionally, especially when it's just not how you planned it, wasn't expected, and some stuff just went wrong. But I'm feeling great now, ready to go.
And what did he get injected? Did he get injected with some magical German potion in Germany that he's not allowed to talk about or something? Or?
I just feel bad for Mayoka because he's one of the better guys in that locker room. He got shut down. I don't know if you guys picked up on that. Damn.
That was a question that you knew McCaffrey wasn't going to answer. He wasn't going to go into any sort of detail with it. But going back to what Bashar said before the interview, or the clip, good running back depth. We wouldn't have seen Garendo at all this season, probably without McCaffrey and Mitchell going down. Kyle's hand was forced to use those running backs, but he has a bromance, on, or, a crush on McCaffrey, a crush on Kittle. That's why we never see any other tight ends literally catch a pass all season when every other team in the league goes multiple tight ends. If it's a situation of protecting McCaffrey from himself, that's fine. Then he needs to be, they don't have to announce this, right? But he needs to be on a pitch count or a snap count, right? If he usually plays 80% of the snaps, he should be playing 40%, whatever that number winds up being. And they have to be pulling him out, and he has to know going into the game, listen, you're not going to be getting as many touches, and he's probably not where he needs to be physically. He's not getting hit in practice. At least I don't think he is. So I think everything's lining up for this to be logical in our brains that McCaffrey's not in for, 60% of the snaps. But Kyle was also the person that put Debo as the starting running back coming off of pneumonia. So I'm not going to put anything past him in terms of what makes sense to us, because I guess their philosophy is, hey, you're healthy to play, I'm going to run you into the ground.
I hate it when
funny that
Debo's
you
a
say
running
that,
back.
because
He's not a
Patrick
running
Taylor
back.
has been jettisoned off this team. So
Yeah, what happened to him? He's gone.
He's gone. Well, if they have Christian McCaffrey back and Garendo and possibly Mason, there just really isn't a roster spot for him with all the players that are coming back and possibly active for this game.
Is he no longer on the roster? Is that what you're saying?
He was waived. He was.
Oh,
waived.
he was. Okay. And they
Patrick
were
Taylor
making
was
a
waived.
big stink about him in the preseason, like he's a strong, powerful runner, and we barely.
It's funny.
reviewed him.
I thought the first play. I mean, not Ronnie Bell. I'm not going to try to make a joke out of it, but I thought the first player that would have been waived would have been Braden Willis. I thought they would have went 4 running backs just because you don't know about McCaffrey, you don't know about Mason's shoulder, and Braden Willis is like just a guy. And again, why keep 4 tight ends when you only use 1? You don't even technically need 3. Like, it's just,
we barely use Silbert.
Yeah, the second and third every year is used for blocking. That's it. I mean, you never see. I think we saw, Selleck and those guys get like 1 or 2 catches a year. That was about it. So,
yeah, when Kittle was hurt.
Yeah,
they might as well just suit up an offensive tackle and give him an 80 or whatever tight end number he can wear and call him the backup tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny. You watch Christian McCaffrey, how serious he is in that interview, which I love. You got Debo talking about, we've been the best team, and now everybody's back, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and I'm like,
bro,
you're not even on the field like half the time. Like you take yourself out after 6 plays every week. Like, how about make it to Sunday, play through Sunday, and you can talk. I love McCaffrey. Man, a few words. He's all business, serious. It means a lot to him. Those are the guys I like. I am an old school Bill Parcells type of person. Like, I love hard, like a Mark Bavaro type guys. They're just all business. I love it. That's one of the reasons I like McCaffrey, is because it means a lot to him. It's just, he's a different kind of cat.
Well, he's and later on in that clip, because that's actually the clip, but an extended version that I listened to a little bit earlier, he said something like 98% of my life is football, and I'm like, damn, bro, your wife is gorgeous. She's a lot. Readjust that percentage, man. Like, I bring it down. Come on.
for her, geez.
Well, at least he didn't call her Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Hey. So I fear we transition into what I just touched on with all the injuries. I'm going to read a list of names, okay? And I'm going to let you guys, when you comment, just pick a name. You can pick a couple of them. Someone you're either concerned about that's injured, or someone that you're kind of happy about that's coming back. So, of course, the Niners have Debo probably returning, along with Juwan Jennings. They talked about the windows opening for both Greenlaw and Yetur Gross-Matos. So Tayshaun Gibson is back. And then we also made the signing or the trade for Kahil Davis, the new defensive tackle that we got from the Texans. So you guys can jump on that one. I'll wait till the end. I'll start with Al.
I'm going to go Jennings, because he was out for a couple of weeks. I know Debo had the rib issue. I didn't think he was in real danger of missing this game. And Jennings too, coming off of the bye, the hip should, generally be okay. I think Jennings will help open. I don't want to say open things up for the offense. I think another thing is I don't want to see Brock be going like bombs away and unnecessarily pushing the ball downfield. They can play like, short ball control, run the ball, efficient offense, and have no problem with Tampa Bay's defense. So I would go Jennings, and actually one that you didn't mention who might be an issue.
I would just thought
Bosa.
it too. Yep.
Bosa, right? Like, he's got a hip pointer apparently, like something happened in practice, and Shanahan is hoping that he could play, not sure how much he'll be able to go. And that kind of came out of nowhere. But I think for the offense, getting like a legit number 2 receiver back and to push Conley down the depth chart, push Ronnie Bell off the roster, Pearsall, whatever. I think he could make a big, we all know McCaffrey's going to make a difference how much he plays, but I'm excited to see Jennings back. The blocking, the energy, the dog in him adds just as much of that juice as Debo does, and it'll be cool to see him back.
James?
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick the new guy, Khalil Davis. I did a little research on him. Last year, he had 30 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and he had 2 sacks. And this year, he's played a lot of snaps. He only has 6 tackles, 1 sack. But this guy, I think, could be a good chess piece for us because we need depth in that middle of the line. We're getting Gross Matos back, who he can shift from the edge to the middle. But when you got this guy that we just got, he's 6'2", 320. Like I always say, we need a big boy in the middle.
We do. Yep.
We got one. So I'm hoping that he can put a presence in that middle with our other defensive tackles, and stop that run, because that is the start of something that could be a better defense. Once you start stopping the run, then they have to pass it. And then they're going to pass it. And that's when we used to get turnovers, is when we stop the run. And they're like, oh, well, I guess we can't run the ball anymore. And they would throw the ball, and we'd get interceptions. We'd get forced fumbles. We'd get all these things. This year it hasn't happened because we can't stop the run. These teams think they can do anything on us. So that's going to be a big deal. I'm torn between the Niners trading big in this time because, I get it. You don't want to lose draft picks because we do need them since we're paying these guys ridiculous amounts of money. But we need to go all out if we want to go to the Super Bowl again this year, and Marshawn Lattimore went to the Redskins. Now that is a big move. That is one
Commanders.
We should have. Yeah, that's a huge move. So, Commanders, yes, but let's see. I still call them Redskins.
A lot of people say both.
I do too. I do the same thing.
I can't help myself. But I'm torn between that because it's like we could go for a huge name. It's over now, but we could go for a huge name. But and nowadays you get like a great player for a 6th-round pick. So it's like, why not? I these trades I've been seeing. I think Deontay Johnson, it was like a 5th-round pick or something, or 6th-round pick. That's a good wide receiver. So yeah, I'm hoping that guy can fill up the middle because our defense is our main concern. I think our offense, Purdy can really, rev things up easily, especially with McCaffrey now. But the defense needs to step it up big time.
What's funny that the run D, looking it up, it's like a top 7, top 8 unit. They're only allowing about 105 a game, but boy, when you watch the games outside the Dallas game, it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't
when they
feel
allow
like
them.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a team where a run defense that teams are worried about running on. Like the Cowboys can't run the ball, but the Chiefs ran it down their throats. Like it's so to get some beef in the middle is great. And the fact that they're rolling with 60 tackles on the 53, like I don't know if that's ever happened in Shanahan's tenure. That's awesome.
And we need sacks. We haven't gotten sacks this year that much at all. We don't put pressure on the quarterback. And that was our thing. We always would put pressure on the quarterback. This year, it's non-existent. It seems like we get 1 or 2 sacks, maybe a game, if we're lucky. We used to get 6, and we'd be like, oh, that's a modest game. But now we got to step that up.
Yeah, and in regards to picking up players, Aaron and I talked about this before the show at one point, but I don't want to burst anyone's bubble here, but Yannick Ngakoue was claimed by the New England Patriots. So, I guess we dropped the ball.
Fantasy died before.
Lost that one again.
Fantasy died before it began.
I don't know if he still has any gas left in the tank, but it is what it is.
Bash, you would care to comment on who you're looking forward to seeing, or who you're concerned about?
I forgot the list of names that you put out, but I will say this, just to piggyback off of what Al was talking about, the Juwan Jennings return definitely has me hyped up. And just to clear up any confusion, as far as players who were goes today at practice, according to Raj, RS the 49ers, who got it from Lombardi, Nick Bosa, CMC, Juwan Jennings, Debo Samuel, Malik Mustafa, Jordan Mason, Jake Moody were all present for practice today. So hopefully that means they play. But yeah, Jennings in general, I mean, losing Ayuk sucks. I mean, I get it. Now, we all know that Ayuk wasn't having an Ayuk type season. We all know what led up to it. I don't necessarily want to get into that. But for a good portion, while Jennings was healthy, he was our number one wide receiver. Let's not forget that. So hopefully, it won't surprise me at all as long as Juwan's feeling good out there, that Brock's going to get that connection back with him. And it could help in the red zone too. He's got the size too. So definitely excited to see Juwan, just like Al is.
You know, it's funny that thanks for the rundown of those. I didn't see that who participated in practice. Jake Moody, I heard earlier in the week, like an interview saying, "Oh, you know, things going good. I'm taking it day by day. I'm not going to rush myself." And that interview happened after they released Anders Carlson. So I'm thinking, bro, you're playing. I don't care what you're saying about. I'm not going to rush myself back. There ain't no other kicker on the roster. Niners think you're playing, dude. Like, just you're good.
Unless they plan on having Wisnowski kick or whatever.
Oh my God.
Who's really let me down this year, man. His punts are just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I know this is off topic, but I'll hit it later. There's some concerns I have. I have this, boom. Because there's so many things that we can talk about if the season doesn't work out, and one of them is special teams. You know, will they address something? Because the Niners, if they win a game before the bye week, they forget about all their problems. It's almost like they lose before they go into the bye week. Now that's like, do they make a move? Do they fire their D coordinator? Do they, get rid of their special teams coordinator? And it's like, we won, which is great, but at the same time, I feel like you're kind of glossing over some stuff that still could really hurt us down the stretch. But I got the list here. This is, I think, the who's playing and who's not playing on Sunday here. Out Chris Conley, Kevin Givens, Peter Gross-Matos, Tavarius Ward, and then questionable Nick Bosa, hip pointer, John Feliciano, knee, Christian McCaffrey, Achilles, Malik Mustafa, Debo Samuel, and I think there's somebody else down at the bottom with an oblique. Who am I most concerned about, or who am I looking at? Oh man, I mean the loss of Bosa, even though he takes, it seems like he takes games off, but he's real streaky. Bosa, he either has a game where he might not get a ton of sacks, but he's disrupting a lot of stuff, or he's having a game where a team like the Chiefs is causing him to play out of his position, or over pursue on things, or get swallowed up in the run game, all those kind of things. So he has like these games where you're like, man, what the hell's the matter with him? He's getting paid all this money. And then he kind of reminds you of who he is. So what kind of game are we going to get? And now with him having this hit pointer, we don't have a ton of depth on the edge. We really need him. I mean, who do we got besides him? Floyd and 91.
Sam O.
Sam O. I mean, so Debo's my biggest concern. And I think on offense, of course, the return of Christian McCaffrey, you want to limit his touches. You want to make him an afterthought in the offense. You want to, go for the guys that are, for healthy, like Kittle. I expect him to have another big game. I would like to see them really run the ball, really a lot, like be very aggressive with the run. Because Al made a good point. This whole bombs away approach that the 49ers have been kind of going with this year, I feel like they're kind of playing out of what they do best. And we know what Brock can do. We know his limitations. I just don't think this 49ers team and Brock Purdy in general are the team that can just do that they can drop back 30 to 45 times a game and just sling it all over the field. They're more of like, let's run it 35 times, throw it 25 times. And usually we win when we approach it that way. So Christian McCaffrey on offense, and then Bosa on defense. I think he's a huge loss if he doesn't play. And then the Greenlaw thing is the one thing that gets me, is because we're 4-4. We can't afford to slip up anymore. Like, we have to win all of our divisional games, and we have to at least, the Niners have no room for error. So like, the Greenlaw thing is like, to me, if they're on the precipice of being eliminated or something, like, and it's time to bring them back, like, what do you do? Do you still bring them back, or do you shelve them? And Gross Matos, I mean, like, people talk about like that's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, what is it? The 21-day window's open.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows when we're going to see him? That might be till December. So, same thing with Greenlaw. I think a lot of people are getting super excited with all these guys coming back, but they're not close to even being on the field yet. As far as Khalil Davis or Cahill Davis or whatever, how you say his name, the Niners, I just don't think they were going to make a move at the trade deadline, because I think internally, and I said this to people and they're like, oh, you're negative. I think this franchise or this team, Kyle, John, know what kind of team they have this year. And it's like, I mean, they're a 500 team going into the bye week. They're not they have no chance of getting the number 1 seed. Are you really going to go all out on a half-season rental on a big-name player that you're going to have to give up in the offseason anyways? I just didn't think it was realistic.
A la Chase Young.
Yeah, like if they would have been 7-1, I think they make a move for like an edge rusher or something. Kind of like what they was the Vikings. I'm trying to think who went, or the Lions or something like that. They go for a name, even though he's a little older.
Yeah.
But you look at their roster, or you look at the record the Niners have, and kind of like how they're just like they're hanging on. But I mean, you can't go for a big name that you might not even make the playoffs with, and then you have to pay. You can't pay him in the offseason, so you got to let him go, and you're going to give up a high draft pick for him. So I just thought the Niners. I think a lot of people were like, I told a lot of people on Twitter, they're like, oh, we're going to do it. We do it every year. We go on a run every year. We get a big name every year. I'm like, I don't think they're going to do it this year. I'm just telling you based on the record. They're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, look at the record. Look at the names out there.
Mm-hmm.
So a half-season rental. Are you really going to do that for a team that might not even make the playoffs? Like they have to have these discussions internally as a franchise. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't that make sense?
No,
Yeah,
it does. And I think that the two players that applied most to was probably Chase Young, although there's probably no discussion to bring him back. If they let him walk, they weren't going to bring him back because he got paid basically the same from New Orleans that they paid Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos individually. And then Azeez Ojulari, the same one. Like there were rumblings that he could have been had for a 4th or 5th, but he's on the last year of his deal. And, that is the definition of a rental. So was Chase Young because he'd be a 1-year player. But someone like Zadarius Smith, I think the Lions got him in a 7th for a 5th and a 6th. Yeah, I think he's 31, 32 years old, but he's got a couple more years left on his contract. So you could maybe do that and have him for next year. Like even Jadeveon Clowney, like you could have maybe gotten him for a 4th or 5th. Carolina's terrible, but he's under contract beyond this year. Those would have made sense, and I think it cuts both ways too. Yeah, I agree. If they were maybe 6-2, 7-1, and they felt like they were one player away from really going over the top and outside the building player, then you pull that. But at the same time, you could use that argument and say, listen, it's a dogfight in the West. You might need that one player not to get you to the Super Bowl, but just to get you in the playoffs, because the Rams aren't going anywhere. Arizona might not be falling off as quickly as we thought. Seattle probably will. So this could be a 3-team battle through the last week of the season, and it's all hands on deck. And the weakest hands that you have right now are at D end. They could have used some depth there, but I'll trust Lynch and Shanahan in terms of looking at the reinforcements on IR coming back as a help. And if Yetur Gross-Matos is the solve, fine, but I'm not convinced, and I'm not sure you guys are either.
No, I would have wished I was hoping they would have went edge, even if it was a name that I didn't know or a younger player that, just hasn't lived up to his capabilities, so to speak. John Lynch made a point. I don't know if this was an interview or a podcast or something where he was quoted, but like any move he's going to make, it's not only for now, but it's for the future. So if they're going to make a trade for somebody mid-season, it might be someone that they want to hang on to past this season. And like, would you really want to do a rental on an older player who, is on the wrong side of 30? I mean, I'm more of I'll go with the less sexy guy who maybe people don't know, who's maybe just needs a change of scenery, but has some real good traits that just maybe needs to be in a Chris Kasarik defense, and put him on the end and get an under edge player. I thought defensive tackle, it's like they made a move just to make a move, Al. I don't know what it is. We got to make a move before the trade deadline. Go get that big fat guy from the Texans. That'll do. Like,
and he's not under contract next year, so he's also a rental, but he could probably be had for cheap. You know, he could, if he works out, maybe he signs $1.5 million, 1.75 a year, just making that up. But you know, like I mentioned, the run defense statistically isn't that bad, but watching the games, it feels worse than it is on paper. So getting one extra body to rotate in, plus now not realizing, maybe the Niners did realize that Kevin Gibbons wasn't a goer, that his groin was in worse shape than we thought. That sounds disgusting to say out loud. So, you know, getting that body in and someone that could be in the rotation, you know, this first week. Again, Tampa's, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Tampa preview. I'm not really worried about them running the ball down the Niners' throats, but the Niners also do play down to their opponents, especially opponents that are missing their top 2 receivers.
Yes, they do. That's such a great point. That's such a great point. I think a lot of Niner fans get so overconfident in the fact that, like, oh, we're going to Tampa and they don't have this guy and they don't have that guy. So what?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that.
Like, why is it that, like, when everybody thinks like when people are just going to we're going to walk into a place and we're just going to dominate. Like, this isn't the 2019 or the 2023 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team who has been absolutely horrendous in the second half. They can't close games. And like Al says, they play down to their competition. They have a bunch of guys out on the other team and they played their worst defensive game of the season. Like, it doesn't automatically, like, oh, we did it in the past. That doesn't mean anything. Like, doing something last year or in 2019, this is a new year. It's a new entity. Everything's different. This is going to be the last time.
Getting excited. That's why Debo getting excited means nothing. It's like,
all the talk about him.
So different. This year is so different from the other years. Like that feeling where, you know, we haven't had a blowout real game other than maybe the Jets, but that wasn't really even a blowout. You know,
no, it's like an 11-point victory. Yeah,
and it's like, what are you guys so confident about? Like, you guys barely beat the freaking Cowboys, who got destroyed by the Lions. You guys, you know, lost to a few teams you should have beat, but here you are thinking, oh yeah, we got McCaffrey back. Everything's going to go. You know, I do agree that McCaffrey's going to help a lot, but it's not like everything's fixed now. You know,
exactly.
It's still a very, very tough season for 49er fans because we all know this. We have that feeling. Well, this isn't like the last year. You know, we're not dominating. So, you know, they gotta, I don't care if we're playing Carolina. We have to show up no matter what. And the whole 4 quarters, if they start screwing up on the 4th quarter again, I swear to God, I'm just going to throw my TV to the moon. I mean,
I was going to say really quick. I know Godwin is going to be out, their wide receiver, and Mike Evans, right? I'm assuming those guys are still going to be out. There I suppose it's a trio of running backs, Bucky Irving and John Tucker and Rashad White, who are pretty damn good on their own. They got a little 3-headed monster. But I mean, this is an eye-opening stat right here. How in the hell is Baker Mayfield out of all guys already thrown for 23 touchdowns so far this season at the midpoint of the season? 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I'm not one to sit there and glare at stats all day from other teams, and I just pulled it up like 5 minutes ago. I was like, whoa, that I was like, how in the hell is he putting these numbers up? Like, you know, I know he's gonna have his K Dotton, I believe, tight end that he's probably gonna target, but we still have, even though his touchdowns aren't gonna be playing, we definitely still got to worry about him, and that's the whole thing where Bosa comes into play and whatever else. If we could have picked up another DN and we didn't, but yeah, people got to step up, man. You know, Sam O. Beal Jr. and that guy that we got from Buffalo. I'm forgetting his name because he hasn't really done much this year.
Yeah,
Leonard Floyd, right? Yeah, that guy. Yeah, all these guys got to step up. Even if Bosa plays, I mean, you know, it's just not like we're playing some sucky quarterback or anything.
Fred Warner made this comment before the bye week about, you know, we got to learn to finish games, and you know, we got to not one week we have it, and the next week we play down. And you see Debo talk the way he does, and that's the mindset of this team. They're all about what we did. Well, when we're all together and we're the most dominant team in the league. No, you're not. You haven't. Where's the Lombardi, homie? Like, you have dominant to who? Maybe the NFC. You're not the most dominant team in the league. That's Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't lost a game, and they have tried to give games away this year. You're not the best team in the league, and you haven't. You wonder why games happen the way that they do. It's a mentality of this team. I think they're a little bit. They like to rest on the past and like what they've done and, well, we've done it before. We're gonna make a run again. Like that doesn't mean anything this year. So,
well, you want a little bit of You want a little bit of positivity. I'll give you some in terms of like the Debo thing.
Do it.
I don't mind the enthusiasm of what Debo's saying, even though it's a, it hasn't translated to the field yet. I'd be more concerned if this team was even verbally feeling like they were going through the motions because they're 4-4 or pissed and depressed that they should be 6-2 or 5-3 at the absolute worst with those Rams and Cardinals game. So I like the fact that he's high energy coming out of the bye as a 4-4 team, right? They're an average team. They are what their record says they are until you prove it otherwise. And McCaffrey coming back and Jennings coming back and Greenlow's probably not going to be back for a month, but some other reinforcements and Pearsall getting a little bit more seasoning and playing time. Nick Sorensen is now 8 games into his career as a defensive coordinator. How does the last half of the year look for him versus the first half? Because it didn't look good for Saleh his first year, 2 years. It didn't really click until 2018 for Saleh. DeMeco Ryans' first half of his first year was bad. And people were calling for his head, and it started to click in the second half of the season. So I like the fact that the team knows that it's all in front of them. Sure, nobody wants to be 4-4. You'd rather be 5-3, 6-2, 7-1, or whatever. But at least the headspace is in the right spot that they're still believing. If you want to say resting on their laurels, believing in their press clippings, that's certainly one way to look at it. And I wouldn't argue with that at all. But I still think they are believing in their talent and what they know that they can do because they have done it before. It's not like this is a team like the Commanders where you could say, well, they're 6-2 and that could fall apart at any time because, yeah, the first half of the season looks good, but there's no precedent for that beyond Jaden Daniels being on the team. As long as they keep that mentality, keep that energy up, and the pieces start fitting and clicking again, I think they could go 6-3 in the second half. I think that's very doable.
I want to add some comic relief to this really, really quick because you mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not sure if I already told you this, Aaron, but I'm not sure if I mentioned last time. Did I tell you my little Halloween joke of an experience I had with a trick-or-treater? Okay, so here we go. So, not that many people came to my door, and usually I wear my Niner hat, but this time around I didn't. Anyways, answer the door, and like 6 kids come up all at once. And the last guy comes up dressed as a referee with shades on and like a stick in his hand, but I didn't really pay much attention. I was like, okay, he's dressed up as a referee, no big deal. Gave him his candy, and then right away he was like, "Go Chiefs," and he walks away. And then I said, "Go Niners," but I was like, "Why did he say go Chiefs?" But I was like, "Duh, he's a referee." I thought that was one of the funniest things, dude.
They've got a lot of those memes, those little memes going on right now, those little videos where they have like voiceovers and AI voice, and it's like pass interference.
Those are so funny. Those
like
are
Mahomes, the almighty Mahomes or something like. Yeah, the referees like
they were calling him Mahomo.
Mahomie. It's pretty. Or they have Chris Collinsworth drooling on himself. People have his voice.
It sounds so much like Chris Collinsworth. It's the guy impersonating him, dude. It's scary.
Pretty great. Wanted to ask you guys about something that's kind of down and depressing. If you were in Javarius Ward's shoes, and any of you guys can answer this, if you were in Javarius Ward's shoes and had a child pass away on you, and you were a professional athlete, do you even come back this year? Would you be mad at him as a fan if he decided to just not come back this year? Because I wouldn't be. If he wanted to say goodbye, and we'll see you in March in minicamp or something. Would anybody have an issue with that? Because I wouldn't. I mean, how the heck can you even ever focus? Who cares about football? Like, seriously, like to me, if he decides to just hang it up for the rest of the year, I would not have any issue. You guys can comment.
I don't think, losing a child is the worst thing possible. I'm not a parent yet, but I can just tell that that's the worst thing. And for a player like that to come back in the season and have all his focus in football with that happening is very unlikely. So I wouldn't care if he came back because, I mean, he needs, him and his family just need to stick together. That's really all you can do when something like that happens. But here's the thing. I was reading a little article about other players that went through this, and a lot of them, surprisingly, did a lot better after something like that happened, which I don't really get. Maybe the anger, or maybe the pain they're feeling, they put on the football field. I forgot which player it was, but it was a safety on another team, and he lost his son, and he came back, and he had one of the best seasons of his career. And there's a few other players I read about that happened to, and they did really good. But I'm not putting this, on him. I think he should do whatever he feels comfortable with. It's horrible. I mean, he lost his little daughter. I mean, and it's something that you can't ever in your life forget about. So I don't know if he should even come back. I wouldn't be worried about it. I think he should just heal with his family, and that's it. That's all you really can do.
No, I'm with you. And I if he were to step away for the rest of the season, completely understandable. There should be no one, fans, media, anybody that should say a negative word about it. But what I will say is everybody processes and handles grief differently, regardless of how terrible a tragedy this is. He may want to be there for his wife, for his family. He may want to, at some point in the coming weeks, not be home and not have it be a constant reminder, right? People are going to process something like this, as tragic as it is, in different ways. And was it Marquise Goodwin for the Niners? Didn't he have a game like the week of his child dying? He wound up scoring
the same
a bomb and wound up kneeling and praying with it. So, and not to say that there's precedent of players playing again, because this is such a personal and individualized type of thing, but whatever his decision is, whatever his play is on the field, it is what it is, because this is just, it's something that, I mean, as a parent of two, I just can't fathom operating on a daily basis, let alone performing my job, let alone being a high-end athlete, let alone there's so many variables that go into it. So whatever his choice is the right one for him completely.
Yeah, you guys pretty much said what I was going to say, but it's okay. I mean, I find it hard to believe that there's somebody out there in 49er land or in the landscape of the NFL who would disagree with us. I just think that'd be ridiculously stupid. I don't know what point they would have that would make sense. I witnessed my mother losing my older brother, so it's terrible. I've seen other moms lose their sons, and it's a horrible thing to deal with for any family member, let alone the mother or a father in this case. And it's not on my mind whether he comes back or not. It just really isn't. If he does, and he's and he feels like it's the right decision for him, that's good. God bless him. If he feels like he has to sit out, that's fine. I have no problem with it.
I feel like football is one of those sports that if you're not mentally 100% on the game, you can really get hurt. You know what I mean? It's a dangerous, it's a dangerous thing to do. I think any job, if you worked any job, on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean or something, and your focus isn't 100%, you can get a lot of people killed. Football, maybe you not get people killed, but you can get a lot of people, you can get yourself injured. And I think his focus, like James said, only should be in the people that he's closest to, his family. I don't have any kids. I have two nieces, girl nieces. Of course they're girls, but I mean, they're the closest thing I have to my own children.
Things are a little different nowadays, Aaron. I don't know.
You never know. And so I don't even know how you would get out of bed, let alone strap up a chin strap and pads and an athletic supporter and go play on the football field. Who cares? Really? I'm the first guy to be on players who don't give effort, and who I feel like are kind of resting on their laurels, as I say. But this is a completely different thing. And for me personally, if I don't see Javarius Ward for the rest of the season, I'm okay with that. If that's what it takes for him to get his life or his emotions or his family at least operating with some sense of normalcy as much as they can, then so be it. I'm not going to sit here and be, and you say that there's not people, you don't think, trust me, there's people out there that are pretty low in the content creating community who could find a way to make this about, something other than what it is. So there's always those people. We know that for sure. What was I gonna go to?
Check the private chat. I'll let you know.
No, I have this as a topic, and this is completely we're talking about something really sad and emotional, and then this is kind of like back to football. Okay, so we talked about the defense, we've talked about players coming back from injury and all that stuff, but we're definitely going to get to that. Trust me. We're going to talk about that. Trust me.
Oh no!
If the 49ers don't capture a playoff spot this year, say they fail this second half of the season, and everybody thinks it's just an automatic thing. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to, we were supposed to make a big trade that didn't happen. But if that happens, should changes be made? And if they were to be made, you guys can go first. I'll go with Bash first. Where would you look if you were using what we've seen in the first half of the season and say that continues to the second half? One, what would you think would be something that they need to look at? And two, should anything be on the table at that point?
Yeah. As far as where I see this team going, I mean, I'm not going to make any bold predictions and saying, oh yeah, we're going to do this and everything's going to be fine and dandy. But historically, with Shanahan teams, we've done better in second halves of seasons than we have in first half of seasons. This time around, I remember you were making, shows ago, a few weeks back, you're making some 2020 season comparisons, right? That's the season where we came off a Super Bowl loss and we missed the playoffs. And my argument was, we didn't have a quarterback, and Jimmy G was out that year, and the quarterback we have this time around is just a better quarterback in my opinion. Now we know he had a little bit of a slip up, not to in a couple of games here and there, but in general, Brock, other than finishing off in the red zone, Brock to me is the man, dude. It's no doubt about it, in my personal opinion. Now, whether they put things together and make a playoff run, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, heads will be rolling. A lot of fans will, certain segment of the fan base will put all the blame on Shanahan and want him to be fired. And after every loss, it seems like they want Shanahan to be canned. I don't think he's going to be canned because of the extension he got. I truly don't. I mean, it's something really drastic would have to happen in that regard. But yeah, I definitely see some changes be made. Maybe Nick Sorensen would get the boot. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Shanahan's extension, I think he's only under contract through 2025.
Oh, okay, really?
If that's the case, then if they don't make the playoffs, then he becomes a lame duck coach like Mike McCarthy. But I can't imagine them not extending him when the first half of the season was wrought with so many injuries, self-inflicted crap that they didn't close against the Rams and the Cardinals for sure. And the Chiefs and Vikings were just better either all season or that day. There's going to be changes no matter what, playoffs or not, right? Like we all know the free agents that are coming up, whether it's Ward or Greenlaw or Hufanga. Do they bring back Hargrave, or do they save a bunch of money as a June 1st cap cut? Is Debo here? Do they trade him? There's going to be personnel changes like there is every year for every team. But I think some of the higher profile players are going to be, not all of them, but maybe 3/4 of them are going to be gone because of cap consideration. So the team's going to look differently. Hopefully they can be half as successful in the draft in 2025 as they were in 2024. I think they have 9 picks. If they can hit on 5 or 6 of them, in addition to what this class looks like, and a couple free agent supplementation, they'll be right there in the mix again. I think Sorensen would be the one that's going to be on the hot seat, right? If Steve Wilkes is on the hot seat, losing a Super Bowl in overtime, then Sorensen will be on the hot seat for being a vital coaching component that did not help this team get into the playoffs. And if that's the case, then I would love, everyone keeps saying Saleh, which I don't know if that's like going backwards in his career. Maybe someone like a Jeff Ulbrich, for the Jets. I mean, he's definitely gone. He's not going to be with the Jets organization after this season. The run defense is bad there. Hopefully that can change, but he represents, I think, at least to me, defensively, a bit of an evolution of the cover 3 that the Jets are at least aggressive. The Jets at least come after the quarterback with more than 4. Their run defense isn't great, and maybe the combination of Ulbrich and Kassar can maybe tighten that up or keep it where it is, say a top 10, top 7 unit. But yeah, the fan base will melt down if the Niners don't make the playoffs. We'll all be pissed. We'll all be looking at games in the first half and second half that they should have won that they didn't. I don't think Shanahan's going anywhere. I think he's just been consistently too successful. And I would imagine him, unless they lose 9 straight, right? I mean, unless something astronomically ridiculous happens, that he probably gets another extension for the next couple of years, because it always becomes you fire him. Who you got? You really think Ben Johnson's going to come here? Like, who's the actual step up from Shanahan? I don't necessarily know if there is one. So I think they'll run it back with the coaching and GM, and it's probably going to be Sorensen out and some of the players that probably have to go because of how much they're going to cost.
And it's through 2027, by the way, the Kyle and John extension.
Oh, it is 2027? Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
My wife's right. I'm not right all the time. So that's good to know.
Before James,
Google is my friend. I'll just say that.
All right. I love it.
Before you go, James, I just think that there's a couple of things here. You could point at defensive coordinator, right? You could point at special teams, which I think I don't understand how you stand pat after this season and just say we're going to run it back with the same trash guy, right? But I think was it Larry Krueger, and I'm not the biggest fan of him anymore, but he's really good. Larry's talented, so I'm not going to hate on that for sure. He made a point of saying, if they're going to blame anybody for some of the stuff that's been happening, they need to look internally in the organization. They fumbled both the Trent Williams extension and the Ayuk thing. They let it go as long as it did. That was an internal organizational failure. They had leverage on both of those guys, on both Ayuk and on Trent Williams, and both times. And with both of them, they let that go all the way up and almost to the regular season. So to me, that distraction that everybody talks about, this organization had a chance to nip that in the bud. Why do you have to have it always play it into training camp every year? Why not take care of that way sooner? Like mini camps, like mandatory mini camps, June. All that should be taken care of. And then you come back in late July, early August, and everybody's ready to go. Instead, no, they let it play almost into the regular season, which I think is absolutely foolish. So, yeah, you want to put some blame on some places. Yeah, you could definitely put it on some coordinators, but I think John and Kyle and an organizational, the way they've been, they're the way that they kind of just operate is, everything's great. Like they just won a Super Bowl. There's no sense of urgency with even their contracts sometimes, which I don't understand how that, based on the things that have happened with these contracts and how players have performed after all this stuff has taken place in other years, you would think they have learned their lesson to get these things nipped in the bud a lot sooner, and they didn't. So I think the blame pie is definitely got to go everywhere, not just special teams or defensive coordinator. It needs to go some internally, maybe John and Kyle as well. So,
yeah, I agree with you, Aaron. I mean, it's always felt like John Lynch is buddy, pal with all these players. Like they're friends, not business partners, because that's what they're supposed to be. John Lynch is a businessman. He is supposed to be the guy that gets players, and he's the guy that comes in the room and everybody shuts up because they know he's the guy. Now, it hasn't felt like that since he's been there. And I don't really like that either, where it's like, Trent Williams probably, came over. Oh yeah, I'll sign in a few weeks. And he's like, oh, it's okay. I don't know if that's how it worked, but we definitely need some backbone in that management, because these guys are just using their big, millions and millions of dollars contracts, and their one season they had a good season to really play us like a fiddle. And it's not right, because like you said, these guys are coming in right at the beginning of regular season. Look what happened. Trent Williams looked like crap the first 5 games, and he still kind of does. And Ayuk is gone for the season. So look what happens. But I agree with Al. I think we'll have a better second half, but if not, next season is a huge off season. I mean, we got to pay Brock Purdy. I think I might be mistaken, but I think Charvarius Ward is off contract, so we might lose him. Trent Williams is 36 years old. He could leave if he wanted to. He could retire if he really wanted to, and I would if I lost the Super Bowl again and again. So if we lose those two guys, and that's not even all of it. I mean, Debo might go. I think we should get rid of Debo just because he's always injured. I think if we really want to be a good team still, carrying on for the next 3 to 5 years, we need to start getting younger players. We need to start drafting a ton of players. If Trent Williams gets out, screw him. Get a left tackle that is 22 years old, that is just as big as him, and that can be Trent Williams in the future. And we need a young team. We need players that are gonna be good for 5 to 10 years. We don't need this all right, we're going to spend $30 million on this guy that might be good for 1 or 2 seasons. I'm getting sick of that. It's like, you guys got to get a young team that develops, and that's where this team started. Debo and all these guys, they were young and we developed them. Now it's kind of at the end of their time, and if we don't do good this year, it probably will be the end of their time. I think drafting good players like we did this year is key to being a good team in the coming future.
And I was saying in this offseason, I was telling people because people are saying oh, well, when we give Brock this contract, what's going to happen? All the good players are going to leave. And I was like, well, we don't necessarily knock it out of the park in the early rounds, but overall we do draft fairly well in rounds that people don't expect teams to draft fairly well. And this rookie class is really, really nice. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. We got some good rookies in this class. And a lot of people doubted the Guerrero pick, Kyle never drafts a good running back. I was like, hold on. This one might be a good one. And so far it looks pretty good. So hopefully we draft well again. And JC mentioned drafting a tackle. I hope we draft a tackle. I've been pounding the table to draft a fucking tackle for the past 3-4 years. You can't develop something. Don't they realize that Trent Williams isn't going to play forever? Mm-hmm. And we lucked out when we lost Joe Staley because we were able to work it out and get Trent Williams. So it is what it is, man. But they better figure it out at the end of the day.
I could have sworn me and James had a discussion where they just don't think offensive linemen are all that important. It's all about skill position players.
Yeah.
Never
do. I think it's such
a
fundamentally flawed way to build a team. Don't you need an offensive line that's good to get the ball to the said skill players? If your quarterback's on his ass getting injured all the time, then what's the point of having the skill players if you can't protect the quarterback? I thought they were kind of like
Which Purdy is. Purdy's always running for his freaking life. And it's like, what would happen if he was like Tom Brady back there with 10 minutes to throw the ball? How good would he be? We don't know because we've never had an offensive line that good, and he's running for his life every game.
So
go back. Oh, go ahead, Al.
I was going to say not to be the Debbie Downer on this topic, but I'll add, again, Aaron, you want positivity.
Yeah, sure.
I saw someone, I think it was a PFF stat. If we're just talking about pressures and sacks, the offensive Brock's been sacked 15 times. So not quite 2 a game, right? 8 games. Only 3 are on the O-line. 1 on McKivitz, 1 on Banks, and 1 on Trent. Pooney clean. Jake Brendel has allowed the fewest amount of pressures and 0 sacks on the line, which is surprising. When you say that out loud. I almost want to
surprise.
12 of the sacks are attributed to running backs, tight ends, or Brock doing his running around.
Sometimes he runs way too much.
So the Niners line isn't a strength, but we're not going to say it's a strength of the team. But I don't think it's as big a weakness as folks think. But I am in agreement. Hey, an O tackle in maybe the 2nd or 3rd round that could maybe slot in as a left guard because Aaron Banks is going to be gone. They're not going to pay him whatever the market dictates, nor should they. He's just average. And then maybe someone out in a year or 2 to tackle, I think would be great. But they came out and said, Chris Forrester said, unless Lynch was in the background of that interview with a gun pointed at his skull. Don't spend a high pick on the line. We'll just, we'll make it work. They actually have I forgot the line he used about, and it wasn't this, but There's a line between like can't block anybody and can block someone. And we just want the people that can block someone. I'm like, way to shoot high.
I've been saying this during the offseason that I think that Chris Forrester over the past like 5 seasons had the most stressful job over any position coach in the entire league because they never bring him any talent to work with.
Yeah,
never. Pooney, people like, oh, the Niners really nailed it on the draft this year. Maybe this new guy that they replaced Peters with is the real deal, but maybe they just lucked into it.
The only good old lineman draft pick going all the way
But
back.
if you look at the good teams in this league, though, they all have good. I mean, most of them have good offensive lines. The Lions have.
City's got a really good offensive line.
The Lions have a great line. If you look at the Chiefs, they have a pretty good offensive line. A lot of these teams have good offensive lines, and it just shows you how important it is.
Adam Peters.
Oh, duh.
Bashar.
I was thinking of a player the whole time. I was like, who's Peters?
Like Bashar's like in the private chat. Who's Adam? Who's Peters? I forgot. Listen,
Peters.
man, this is what I'll put it like this. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that we fall on their face in the second half. Do I want it to happen? No, of course not. I might be negative, but in my heart and when I watch games, I'm still like, please remember who you are. Be that team that you've been the last, however many years. Remember it, recapture it, whatever you got to do. But there's another part of me. It's kind of like the angel devil thing where it's like, I mean, there's glaring issues that this team has that they have to address either now or in the offseason. Special teams and defense are two of their biggest issues. So, I mean, and then, you talk about Debo. We talk about like, oh, Debo's a goner. I hate to say this, and I'm the first guy to be like, hey, it's been great, dude, but you just hurt all the time. And you take yourself out of games and you're never healthy and all that stuff. You're really good in like these little spurts, but for what we're paying you, probably not worth it. But now with Ayuk possibly with the knee, now you almost have to keep him. So we're running in circles doing the same stuff over and over again. Like
keep kicking the can down the road.
It's a nice audition time for Pearsall, and if Cowen gets on the field,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if Pearsall proves himself, if Cowen gets more snaps, if the passing game goes through Kittle like it did the past couple games, and he stays healthy, and I think he's someone I think he and Warner are going to get extensions. If for no other reason, then it's going to lower their cap hit next year. I'm with you. My philosophy or plan, even though I have no say in anything, was that like for the past year and a half was that Ayuk gets re-signed and Debo gets traded after this year, which still might happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
ACL, MCL things, not that they're commonplace, but the athletes bounce back from it more often than not. He may start out on the PUP list, Ayuk, but he'll probably be available beginning of October next year. And the Niners will probably be 2-2, and we'll all be bitching and moaning at that point. Why are they a 500 team without Ayuk? All that good stuff. It's really possible that Debo stays for sure next year. They just might not. I don't see the logic in extending him with the way that his body just takes a beating the way Kyle uses him. And he's not a top flight, purely wide receiver that you're going to pay $25, $30 million a year to. The Niners are in the point now where you can't have two nice things at a position. You can have Ayuk, but not Debo. You can have Demo, but not Ward. You can have Warner, but not Greenlaw. You can still have a star. You could have Bosa and no one opposite him, which is convenient because they never have anyone opposite him. So they're going to have to make their choices. The Debo getting extended at 30 or 29 years old, the way he plays and the games he misses, just logically doesn't make sense. So he could play out 2025, leave as a free agent. They get a compensatory pick. Cool. But if I'm Debo, I would say, like, take the Ayuk approach. I'm not stepping on the field till I get a contract. And that would make a lot of sense. And if he does that, then it's like, all right, now we got to trade you.
Yeah, at that point, if Debo's making those kind of demands, he can kick rocks because he's not worth it.
No,
he's not worth it. When people are like, oh, Aaron, you're so critical on Debo. He's always hurt. He's always hurt. Tell me what I mean. It's not. He can't even make it through games.
It's always during the big games that we need him the most too.
Yeah, he walks out of bounds and he's tired. Like, well, what's up? That drives me up the freaking wall. They got all this talk about players taking themselves out of game, like Anthony Richardson and that one receiver. I forgot what team he's on. He just walked to the sideline during the middle of a play. Debo does it too. I mean, what is happening constantly? I tweet about it all the time. I was like, did Debo just take himself out of another game? Like nobody else does that on this team. Kittle should be the guy that should say, I got to get out. I'm exhausted. I just carried, 3 guys like in the Saints game where he was carrying guys and they were dangling on him and stuff. Debo makes like one play, he always runs like 60 yards and he's out for like a series.
From what I hear, Kittle limps before the games and limps after the games. That's how banged up he is.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yet he's always trying to play. And I don't know, man. I love Debo to death. He's been a really great part of this kind of resurgence of this franchise. But I'm ready to move on personally as a fan and the franchise needs to look at what you're getting in return and what you're paying. It's like James was saying, it's a business. And in a business, if the returns aren't what for the amount of money you're putting into something, if the returns aren't as equal or more, then it's bad business. So that's just me. I'm getting tired of players that eat up a lot of salary cap that are sitting on the sideline during monumental drives because they're out of breath. And it's like, wait, what about all that training you were doing in the offseason where everyone's like, oh, you got to see Debo this year, man. He's lost weight. He's juggling. He's breathing fire out his mouth. He's doing all this stuff. And I'm like, so he's still going to miss like 6 games. So what does it matter? Like none of that stuff impresses me. Same with Kittle. I don't care what you're doing in the offseason, bro. Just stay healthy during the season. None of that stuff.
How do you look like Hercules and you can't even stay on the field? Like, come on.
Yeah, Debo lost all this weight. He was supposed to be in better shape this year, and he looks more gassed than ever. Personally, I don't know. That's just me. One of the last things I wanted to talk about, and we'll make it quick because it's probably going to cause a lot of problems. Should the NFL fine Nick Bosa for his political opinion based on his hat? Like, if it was the other way, do you think they would make a big stink of it? And even if it was the other way, should the NFL should they punish him for quote unquote free speech?
Yeah, I mean, if there is by the letter of the law an attire rule about what you can wear pre, during, or post game,
okay, yep.
Then absolutely, right? Like, I mean, they have issues with players trying to drum up awareness for something like breast cancer awareness. Like if it's not breast cancer awareness month, you can't wear pink and you can't write anything on your cleats unless it's the my cause my cleats thing. So, not because it's a Republican or a MAGA thing, whatever. But if there is something on the books that says you should be fined, then if he was voting for Harris or an independent, which is essentially throwing away your vote, like he should. And he's an unabashed Trump guy, which is totally cool. And he may or may not have known, that he was going to get fined by doing that. Nick seems like a thoughtful guy, but he might not be the sharpest tool in the shed also, because I don't know him personally. Who knows? But yeah, but I think fans went nuts, even Niner fans who say are Democrats or weren't. F Bosa, I can't believe he did that. I don't like getting pissed about. And it's like, bro, it was a hat. It was 3 seconds and it didn't hurt your eyes. Everybody survived it. It's okay. But if he needs to be fined, he should. And then we just move past it. Like, done.
Yeah. It's like walking into any job. If I walked into my job and I had I had one of the Metallica shirts, the one from the, forgot what album it says, metal up your ass in the back. Pretty sure you can't wear that walking around work when there's customers there.
You can't even wear jeans.
Yeah, you can't so I mean, I understand both sides of it. Did it hurt anybody for him to have it on? No. Did we even see it? No. It was like they did some sort of like voodoo magic neon thing.
Oh yeah, they did,
but if there's a rule, listen, if there's company policies, and this goes back to even with the Kaepernick thing, I had no issue for what he was doing as far as what he was protesting for, but it was the platform and how he did it on the field during games. The NFL has certain rules. It's like going outside your job and protesting in front of your employment about your employer and the things that they're doing wrong. Of course, they're going to want you to move off the premises. You know what I mean? So I understand all sides of the argument. At the end of the day, if he needs to get fined, I'm sure it's not going to hurt him because he makes a lot of money. So it needs to be it. To me, it's really a non-issue. I mean, the election's over, so we don't have to deal with this for 4 years. But if the NFL deems it necessary to fine him because it breaks rules, then I'm for it.
It's an $11,000 fine if it goes through, if he does get fined.
What is
I
that?
don't know.
Like 50 cents for
Yeah, I mean for Bosa it means nothing. It really does. And maybe he knew about it beforehand, so it is what it is. I don't know what the loophole is, if it has to be while the game is still being played, or if it just happens to be before or after the game as well, where they count. I don't know how they count this rule or whatever, but he may have known in the back of his head that, hey, I might get it fined or tagged, but I don't care. I'm just gonna voice my opinion anyways, and it is what it is. I didn't take offense to it. Other people did. I get it. Other 49er fans did. But whatever. I'm not going to sit there and argue with them about it either. So, we all know what happened this past week with the election, and it is what it is. So,
Rob D, I think he did end up getting fined for that shirt last year.
Well, he did, but this year he didn't show it. This year he had it underneath his shirt.
He shouldn't have showed it. We're freaking 3-4 going into the game. What the hell are you going to do that for? It's like,
but yes, I agree with you guys. It's not a huge deal. He just needs to follow the NFL rules. I mean, that's what these players do. They got to follow the rules. There's a lot of rules the NFL has. I don't know the exact rule on this. But if he disobeyed the rule, of course he should get fined, because everybody should be held accountable. If not, then let him express his, what he wants to express. My main thing is, Niners, you need to focus on football. All right. And that's it. That's my whole thing,
No
I
more
want
stupid stuff.
I want to throw out a suggestion for the San Francisco 49ers organization to hire Aaron Labigan as their morality coach and set the locker room to tell them what they can.
The morality coach.
Yeah.
that thing that vacillates them out as much as the thermometer in the wintertime in Rochester.
Darth Aaron.
Darth Aaron. No, well, that's to see the dark side's cooler looking. They have the better looking outfits. They're villains. The villains always have the cooler setup.
Well, it looks like
why
you got
not?
Sith lightsabers in the background.
That is my Sith lightsabers.
Yeah, he does have them.
Those are my Imperial Red Guards standing guard, just in case somebody wants to jump at
the
me.
Niner Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
I'm
nice.
I guess we'll hit on the Bucs and we'll get out of here. I really don't care how much we win with this game, if we need win by 10 or if we win by 3 or win by 30. I just think the Niners, for all the talking that they've done in the bye week, for all the talking we were doing in the post-game press conferences after we went and beat Dallas by barely beating them, by getting rest, about fixing things and blah, blah, blah. This is a put up or shut up time of the season. And for as much as I hate teams going into buys, because I think it kills momentum, this might be the only team in the NFL where I think the bye week possibly could help them, because what momentum were they going into the bye week with? I mean, every other week they're having problems. People are injured. They're losing. They're winning. They're losing. They're winning. They're losing. So who knows? Maybe it resets their circadian rhythm or something, and they're fresher and they feel better. I don't know. So I'm personally thinking they're going to win by 10. I think they're going to be. I'm going to go 31-21 49ers. I think with Christian McCaffrey back, I think Brock Purdy's going to have a real good game. I think he's going to throw like 3 touchdowns, something like that. Maybe throw for 280 yards. I'll go with that.
I'll go. I was thinking about it this week and talking about it on my podcast. I'm going to go 27-23 San Fran. 6.5 point spread, right? And it feels like a lot, the way that the Niners don't beat up on teams, and as the way that the Bucs have been just so feisty since the Baltimore game, when Evans went down early, Godwin went down late. They lost that game by 10. They hung around. It was a 1-score game, I think, with Atlanta, and they took the Chiefs to overtime. And you could argue they had a real shot to win that game if the coaching staff had any balls and decided to go for 2 in regulation. Like they could have stolen that game, and they didn't play really extremely well by any means, although Mayfield was clean. I think he threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Clean game. I think, to me, just kind of what it comes down to, yes, McCaffrey coming back and Jennings, and I can't pick up, not that 10 points is a blowout, but I can't pick above the spread, I guess, and I'm not betting on it until I see a game or two where they start flexing a little bit more like the 2023 Niners. And I do think that, the difference between the Niners O and the Buccaneers D is a bigger gap than the Bucks O and the Niners D. I think the Niners D has a better chance of corralling the Bucks a little bit, although Tampa's a top 5 offense. They're a top 5 offense, which is crazy when you think about who they don't have.
Yeah.
I think the Niners go there. They take care of business. I think it's probably closer than Vegas would like, although I don't know who Vegas is rooting to win, so that may not matter. But I think this is game 2 of a 3-game winning streak. Then once we get to Green Bay and Buffalo, then maybe all bets are off. But
Yep.
Niners by 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
think.
go out on a limb? Oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, you want me to go? 34-17 is gonna be my prediction.
Wow.
I know. I said I go down on a limb, but this is the game where the 49ers just wake up and say, you know what? We've moved the ball all fucking year.
Yeah.
There it is.
This is the game where Purdy says, "Fuck this," or I'm going to throw some touchdowns to CMC or Jennings or whoever, Kittle, and we're gonna capitalize on these drives and score some TDs. We're not going to rely on our fifth string kicker or whatever to kick field goals. And this, if we're going to do it, it's going to be this game. If we're going to finally score some TDs in the red zone, it's going to be this game. The Tampa Bay defense is terrible. In the red zone. So 34-17.
I guess I'm the negative Nancy tonight because I think it's going to be 31-28. Because here's the thing, I just don't believe in our defense yet. I really don't. And here's the thing: we've dominated the Buccaneers in the past years, and McCaffrey, I feel like will make a difference. But here's the thing: Mayfield has made a huge jump this year. I've watched a few games of his. He is very confident, and unless our defense is confident as he is, we're not going to play very well against him because here's the thing. They lost their best 2 wide receivers, but he has these small depth wide receivers. I can't think of his name, but one of them, he's very Sterling Shepard's doing way better this year with him, and there's another guy.
There's Trey Palmer and Jalen McMillan.
Trey Palmer, who is very underrated because he played for another bad team. I think it was the Chargers. I can't remember. But anyways, the point is Baker Mayfield, I think, has this chip on his shoulder against us too, because we have beat him pretty bad. So I think it's going to be a close game, just because of our defense. I'm still not confident in our defense enough to say, all right, our offense is going to score a bunch of points and hold them down. I don't have that confidence yet.
Listen,
I don't either.
I would be if it rolls the way that Bashar said and it's like a blowout. I would love if this felt like the Jaguar game coming out of the bye last year, right? Like that's like they just blew the doors off. And maybe it's not out of the realm of possibility that Chiefs game was deflating for Tampa. Like that they left all their emotional baggage out there in Kansas City and they come home and lay an egg. But when you line them up 11-on-11, O&D, the Niners are clearly the more talented team.
Yep.
I'm I'm more with James, like being a little bit negative or conservative. Like I gotta see it first before believing it. But I also agree with Bashar that this is the game where everything is set up with how bad Tampa is defensively and who's coming back for San Fran, where this could be the game. This could be like literally the definition of a get right game. Should have been Dallas.
Yeah.
And it was for 3.5 quarters, but it wasn't, so I could see it going, 2 different ways. I'm just super conservatively negative that I'm going anti-spread.
Yeah.
I feel like if we go away from the bombs away Purdy and we start going back to more of what we saw in 2019 of balanced offense.
Yeah.
Which might include a three-headed monster, but probably more of a 2-headed monster at the running back position. Dude, I don't care if Purdy passes for 15 times in the game for 105 yards. If we run it for 250 and just gash them all game, I don't care. Maybe the defense, I don't know, protect them from themselves. Maybe don't want them on the field. The defense, that's James says, I have no confidence in this defense. I just don't. They've shown time and time again.
We don't run the clock anymore either. That's the thing.
We got to run the clock down a bit more. Our clock management.
You got to run the clock. And everybody's going to say we're clock managers. I don't care. They called us clock managers all year last year. Who went to the friggin' Super Bowl? We did. So we can be clock managers, but we haven't done that this year. We're throwing the ball too much when we have Jordan Mason, who is killing it the whole freaking season. And it's like, you're going to give him 10 carries? Come on. Like, what the hell's going on?
Well, the magic formula isn't too much of a mystery, right? It's 30 or more runs, less than 30 passes.
That's right.
That's just what and sometimes if the game gets away from them, which I don't think this game will, that affects how many times you run the ball. I totally get it. But if they're keeping it within striking distance against any team, there's really no reason why a Niner team can't run the ball more than 30 times. It's what Kyle wants to do. It sets up the pass and everything. And this team, just like with Jimmy, and Brock is light years ahead of Jimmy. But like Jimmy, Brock in this offense does not operate as efficiently or explosively as when he passes it 35, 37, 38 times a game. Just ask the Cowboys. They can't run for shit, and Dak's throwing it 30 plus times, and they're 3-5. And he's out. And Trey Lance is starting this week, right? Oh, no, my bad.
No, that's right.
Oh, no, my bad. He sucks.
No, it's Super Rush.
You might want to go ask. You might want to go ask Ryan Hensley that one. He might have a different perspective on that.
I used to be big on Trey Lance too. I'll just throw that out there. But once we shipped him off, I was like, okay, whatever. Brock's okay. I didn't. Some people had this love affair for him where they stuck with him. I was like, no.
Yeah, last year I think it was they were still talking when there was the struggle in the 3 games loss. We had the part of the Cowen clique just still dripping and drooling all over Trey Lance's gobber. And he's gone. And you had people on Twitter saying if Trey Lance was the quarterback, they wouldn't have lost that game in Cleveland last year. And it was just like, guys, it's over. The dream is over. He's a 3rd string quarterback. He's lucky to even have a job. Sometimes it just doesn't work, man. And you just got to freaking take the L and move on with your life. Let it go. Brock Purdy's a better quarterback. And he has a quarter of the physical talent, raw talent, and body size and hand size and all that whatever crap that doesn't matter. So get out of here. Freaking people. Yeah. We're going to get out of here, everybody. I'm so glad I got a chance to do this, and we got to go long. And it was kind of like without any, what did they say? Without any handcuffs or whatever. Not handcuffs. Whatever. But it was fun. Things are probably going to go back to the way they usually are next week. But there might be some changes to come on the channel. But thank you, Al from 49ers Plus Pod for coming in. Your channel is linked in the description. Same with Bashar, 49er Minded. He also has a YouTube channel. His channel is also in the description. James, you got to get yourself a YouTube channel so I can link it in the description as well. I'll have to put that on there next time. And everybody who's been part of the stream, whether on Twitter or X and on YouTube, thank you so much. And we'll see you all next week. Hopefully we'll be talking about a 49ers dub. See ya.
All right. Peace.